Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. Before we get started this week, just a quick heads up. The Techstars Web3 Accelerator is now open for applications for the class of 2024. Jump on over to techstars.com/accelerators/web3 to share with your Web3 founder friends or to apply directly. And just a note, none of what you're about to hear is investment, legal, or tax advice and is for your listening pleasure and informational purposes only. We've got a special crossover episode this week, courtesy of our friends at the Irish VC podcast, with a big shout out to Finn Hathroll for producing the initial episode on the Irish VC podcast channel over the summer. The Irish VC podcast is operated by BVP, an Ireland-based venture capital firm founded in 2004 by Elliott Griffin. In this episode, Elliott joins me to share a few stories on venture investing, my path into crypto, working with founders before and after investing in them, building products that people actually want, founders knowing the difference between a pre-seed round and a seed round, the power of founder market fit, founders and investors being accountable to each other, how to get the attention of VCs, why I'm still doing Money Never Sleeps after all these years, and learning from our mistakes. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. Hey everybody, welcome to the Irish VC. I'm Pete Townsend. I am guest hosting this today along with Elliott Griffin from BVP. How you doing today, Elliott?
Hey Pete, how are you? I'm doing great, yeah.
Awesome. Listen, everybody, I'm usually the host of a podcast called Money Never Sleeps. And I also am a managing director with Techstars and run the Web3 program for Techstars. And just thrilled to be here to be chatting with Elliott today. Elliott, maybe why don't we get started and you just tell us a little bit about what you're up to and kind of your background in the space, yeah?
Yeah, great, Pete. Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be on the podcast with you and share some ideas. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, BVP, we've been around for 19 years, so it's a good stretch of time. We've been fundraising and investing for nearly 16 years as well. It's been a fun time, loads of ups and downs, obviously. Plenty of lessons learned, and like any business, we've evolved. Thankfully we've grown, and hopefully we've learned from our lessons, and we try to share some of that with the founders that we work with as well. So that's BVP. We're a small team, small company. So again, we've loads in common with the founders and the startups that we work with as well.
Very good. And you have that lovely world map behind you, which I think, obviously being based in Ireland but having a global view on things. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the great satisfying aspects of working with young startups is that the ones we support usually have a world vision. If they need to start somewhere, they need to, hopefully in their own country, it's the best market to make a start. But hopefully the product is a product that's adaptable for global markets. And that ambition is just great. And some of our founders have packed their bags and gone to base themselves in other countries and just do whatever they need to do to deliver on the vision. So it's all about that worldview, I guess.
It is. It can be daunting sometimes when a startup getting started in Ireland and everyone tells the founder, you need to immediately be thinking much bigger than the Irish market because there's 7 million people on the island, right?
Yeah. As Ireland is a difficult market. It can test some of the best businesses even trying to sell in the Irish market for various reasons. But you're so right. We're a great little country. We certainly punch above our weight when it comes to delivering new technology companies. And thankfully, the last 10 years, we've seen some really good startups scale and go international and be acquired or just go that journey and really develop really good companies and employing a lot of good people and building serious management expertise. So yeah, it's good to see it happening in this country.
It is. And why I like to position Ireland is that it's the time zone, right? You are right in the middle of the world's time zone. You can reach the West Coast of the US and you can reach Asia with a stretch during your business day.
And obviously the multinationals have cottoned onto that because hence why they're all based, or a lot of them are based in this country. So yeah, there's a good logic to it. It's not just a crazy love of the green country. There's an actual position in it in the world. Yeah.
Totally agree. I'm a big fan, and I've been here 23 years now. Sorry, not 23 years in Ireland, 23 years outside of the US.
Okay.
17 years in Ireland.
And what brought you actually here in the first place?
I met an Irish girl.
The usual story.
Yeah. I met her in Bermuda back in 2001. And when it was time to leave Bermuda, because it's a beautiful place to live, but you want to move on to the real world, right? So it was time to go. I didn't want to go back to Boston yet. I love Boston and will always will. But she wanted to go home. And I said, let's give Dublin a shot. And you could always go somewhere else, but we stayed. And 17 years later, still here. And
unfortunately, your waters aren't quite as warm as they would be outside of Bermuda. But anyway,
that's fine. No, I learned to love it. Swimming the 40 foot. We were down in sunny Wexford in Fettard, and we were swimming every day, rain or shine. So the cold weather doesn't bother me. And out in Blackrock in Salt Hill and Galway just over the weekend. Absolutely love it. But I jumped out of my corporate career in the year 2016 after I'd gone down the blockchain rabbit hole. And my path into blockchain had come through fintech and a fascination with that. And it was more being enamored with the startup mindset and the founder mindset. And I'd walk into places like Dogpatch Labs in my last 2 years in the corporate world, and I would talk to startup founders, and it was like seeing electrons just in front of my face, just flowing everywhere. I was totally just excited by the whole thing. And when I jumped out of the corporate world and into just, hey, I think I've got something. I think I've got a way to help startups here, just with my experience on the tech side and with at the board level and as a senior exec in financial services. I said, I've got something to offer here. And I got matched up with a founder just through serendipitous connection and started helping them out. And I got in to help this fintech startup on the basis of, let's work on something together of trying to get an employee stock ownership plan together, a growth plan, and a few other things. And after a few weeks, after a few days of talking to everybody, I'm like, folks, you just need more money, right? You need to get fundraising. And that's where the whole path started for me. And the fintech story evolved into crypto and into blockchain over the course of a number of years. Just found my way into the startup ecosystem and helping founders get their products to market, get funded, get customers. Right. And that I found this flywheel concept of if you can get a little bit of a product built and just enough to get it into customers' hands, and then moving it from having a few customers that are able to say, yes, we really want this, we really like this, and using that almost testimonial and or validation to put that in front of investors. And investors being able to fund you at the pre-seed level. You get one shot, one opportunity, as Eminem says, to be able to get that pre-seed done and get your first 500K to $1 million on a vision with an investor that really believes in that space. But you've got to move really quickly into revenue. And
tell me, Pete, so you started out in blockchain, but it sounds as if you broadened that into fintechs. Would you say that we've had this experience ourselves where, blockchain was just too early? It was, you really need to refine your business plan, broaden it out, make it more market appealing. Was that really
it was fintech was before I left the corporate world and had been tracking blockchain to quite a big extent in 2015, 2016, with this vision of blockchain being able to improve fintech and make fintech even better. And as I went through those years, 2016, 17, 18, 19, I saw that the separation of blockchain from crypto was counterproductive. If you truly understand blockchain and you truly understand how cryptographically secure assets work, right, which is the root of the word crypto rather than cryptocurrency, in my book anyway, if you truly understand that, you can see that as plumbing for a new financial world. And that's what gets me most excited about this space. And someone asked me in the last couple of weeks, what are you most excited about in the crypto space? And I said, there's just so many use cases and so many applications. For example, stable coins, which are crypto tokens that track real world currencies. There's been, I think it was 7 trillion in volume in last year. And that is up there in terms of MasterCard and Visa. We needed this whole arc of crypto coming from the origins that it came from to get to this point where it's at now. We're at 1 trillion roughly in market cap on crypto, but it's almost meaningless to me. It's about the adoption and it's about the usage and it's about telling these stories around why it's effective and why it's better and why it can create this whole open financial system for the world. But away from the scamminess that hopefully a lot of the dead wood has been blown from the trees in the last couple of years.
No, it's very interesting to hear your insights on that because we're probably unlikely to want to be a leader in the sector. So we're obviously, yeah, if someone came in and had a good proposition, we'd have a good look at it. It's just too virtual right now. It's probably the time is for the large multinationals and the banks and and finance companies to get behind it. But for SMEs, the hard cold cash of investing is still critical to
Absolutely.
to grow in their business.
Absolutely. And during that time of me, it was between 2016 and 2021, I tried myself to get venture funds launched 4 times across a number of different ideas. The first one was kind of fintech, crypto, cyber, a bit of AI in there. And then there were 3 more attempts up until 2021, and Techstars came along. And they said, Pete, hey, we see you're in the crypto blockchain space. We're building this Web3 program. Would you like to run it? And I said, absolutely. And I've been doing that for the last 2 years.
Very good.
And to your point on, was it early? Yeah, it was early. Our first, even in 2021, the last bull run, I started my first program in the beginning of 2022 with Techstars. That was the height of the bubble. What we're finding is that with every bubble that bursts, that more and more developers that came in while the tide was rising, that a surprisingly high number of them stuck around, and that what we really need is more developers in this space.
Well, actually, that's very interesting because I know the companies that the companies we back and companies that come to us as well, sometimes that they're too early for us. And sometimes it's just, how do we find a home for these guys that they're really good? We'd like to refer them to somebody who can actually help them develop their business plans better. For me, Techstars has been always on the landscape, but just tell me a little bit about how does a founder find his way into Techstars?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Techstars is the world's most active pre-seed VC, but it's a different approach because you invest and then you put them through a 13-week accelerator program. That 13 weeks is meant to be the last 13 weeks of the first phase of that business, of that founder's journey. And there are 50 programs around the world. Techstars programs are either city programs that are focused on a specific geography, or they're partner programs that are with corporate partners. For example, JP Morgan run a bunch of programs with Techstars that are focused on some geographic areas as well. But then, for example, ABN AMRO run a fintech program with Techstars in Amsterdam. It's a big business, 300 people, and over 3,000 startups have gone through Techstars program since 2007. Originated in Boulder, Colorado, and was established by Brad Feld, David Brown, and David Cohen back in 2007 in Boulder. And that original vision that they had about, hey, we'd love to invest in a bunch of local startups. We connect them with mentors and we help them grow and scale quickly within 3 months, accelerate them. And that's the whole idea. And yes, I do lead the Web3 program. I live in Ireland. My investment principal, Hugh McGurr, he lives in Ireland as well. And we try to act as champions as much as we can in the Irish ecosystem for Techstars. And generally, like you said, if you come across companies, Elliott, that you think are a little bit too early for you, but you really like the founders, that's the key thing for us, is that we're looking for great founders. And that I have conversations at least once a week with founders across all different disciplines. And I say, all right, here's the Techstars webpage where you can look at the accelerator programs. What is the vertical you're building in? What are the cities, the ecosystems that you're interested in? And then try to find a program that matches. There's also a number of programs that some are physical and in person. Others are hybrid, which is just probably 4 weeks out of the 13 weeks in person. Others are virtual like mine, but we do meet up in 3 cities around the world for a week at a time during the program.
Yeah, no, it's great. It goes back to the point we were making earlier, was just about developing the business, having somebody to actually test your concepts and see, is your timing right for the marketplace? It's a great environment. Nevertheless, we still have folk that come to us directly ourselves, and we work with them over a period of 8 and 12 months and sometimes longer even, to keep in touch with them and figure out when is the right timing, and give them some support and direct them towards something like Techstars or just some other private investors. Or Enterprise Ireland, of course, do a great job as well in helping that whole ecosystem too. So, yeah, it's really about helping those relationships and helping people to figure out how
Definitely.
to do
it. And, Elliott, we say that to pure venture investors all the time. Listen, bring us your finest meats and cheeses and we'll take them and we'll get them into the frying pan for you, and we'll start cooking.
Yeah.
and then we'll hand them back to you to finish it off, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the 120K in funding that we can give them as well gets them going.
Is this so satisfying when you meet a founder on day one and over the process of time that they can figure out their path forward and actually show their resilience, show how they can discount some stuff, focus on the meatier stuff that delivers value, and start proving themselves, showing how they can even inspire other people to join them in the team as well. It's great. It's very satisfying to see that happening, isn't it?
It is.
It's what that early stage of investing is all about, to see that people blooming and blossoming when they're actually passionate enough to keep delivering and keep driving forward to make it happen. So
definitely, I think the key is exposure, is getting them talking to as many people as possible. And Techstars do that through mentorship, where people end up speaking with 60, 70 experts in their field. And what happens is that either everything they came into the program with is generally more or less confirmed. Yep, you're going the right direction. You're going to need some seasoning to do this quicker, but you're going in the right direction. Or it's that, hey, this isn't going to work. You go back to the drawing board and you start your customer discovery process all over again. And we say, talk to 100 customers if you're doing B2C, talk to 30 customers if you're doing B2B, before you can really figure out if you've got a problem worth solving, and leverage that network and leverage that relationship as much as you can.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And actually, one of the real moments of truth sometimes, which sometimes the founders just don't want to hear, is you've got to make your customer pay for this as early as possible. Like the keeping the hype going that someone's going to want this, but hey, they're not going to pay for it yet. Sometimes it's the biggest fallacy. The customer has to start taking a little bit of risk in if you can make that person believe to actually put their hand in their pocket to start funding this new product or this new service. Sometimes it's the biggest validation.
It is.
And guys like you can figure that out in ourselves too, if we could just push people a little bit harder to show that.
I know so much focus I've seen so many founders just so hungry for fundraising before they actually have found even the inklings of product market fit.
Yeah.
And Hugh McGurr, who I mentioned, he says, he's like, get your product market fit and money will follow.
Yeah.
Money will follow. And Isaac Cato, who was formerly with Techstars, he brought my last cohort through a fundraising session, and he's like, listen, get yourself to 50K in monthly recurring revenue. And that's easier said than done.
It is.
And if you can comfortably raise a seed round, but we've got founders waltzing around the place saying, hey, I'm raising my seed round. Okay, great. Tell me about your revenue. It's like, oh, we haven't started a product yet. Then don't raise a seed round. You're raising a pre-seed round.
Yeah.
Right? And getting all that right. And so much of my conviction, Elliott, over this in this space has come over the last 2 years, but you've been doing this a lot longer. How has the landscape changed for you over the last 15, 17, 19 years?
Yeah. It's a really interesting question. And to be honest, Pete, sometimes we're so focused on our business and driving forward that we don't spend enough time reflecting. But it's a really interesting question. I mean, what I say to people is that, like, the landscape has changed dramatically. Like the folks that we would have been meeting 15, 16 years ago when we were investing our first, they were good quality people. We believe a majority that we invested in were. But we just think the sophistication of the presentation has increased. We talk about the ecosystem here, which is an overused word maybe, but it's that whole ecosystem has improved dramatically. There's more angel investors. And that raises questions as well as to what that actually delivers for the community. But I think the supports have improved no end. The level of accelerators, as we were saying there's more choice. In some respects, they have more ways to fail quicker. But I just think probably the flow of capital probably in Ireland has improved. Just even judging by our own fundraising capability from day one to where we are today, thankfully, it's exponential compared to where we were.
What do you think are some of the factors that have driven that flow of capital more into Ireland and made it more available?
Look, I think people have seen success in the tech sector. Yeah. I think they have genuinely seen, and people like companies like Stripe, again, maybe overused, but
Intercom, Wayflyer, Finergo, 3 unicorns right there.
The list is quite long, and it certainly is. So I think that's inspired people, and they believe they can do it. I think at the same time, it still goes back to the main core principles of resilience, being able to innovate and keep innovating, honesty, hard work, all those kind of qualities in a founder. were there when I started, and they're still there. But one of the things I have found as well is that starting a sector, getting into a new sector can be, it's not for, it's okay. Everyone's allowed to do what they want to do, but bringing in investors on top of that, it just adds too much pressure to a founder. Stay in the sector that you've found the problem out, like your story, actually. You found the problem when you were in that other environment, the large corporate environment, and then the problem that you're trying to solve now, and you're bringing that experience to the table, contacts, and start the ground running, as opposed to starting in a brand new sector thinking, oh, I'm going to learn this sector all at once, and then bring in investors along the journey as well. It's just going to be a hard story.
Yeah, founder market fit is one of my favorites. You absolutely need to have that. And there's this nature of Irish founders, and I used my 4 H's years ago when I was talking about this. The 4 H's that I use to describe Irish founders are happy, helpful, humble, and hungry. Right?
Yeah.
Irish people are generally good-natured. Not everybody, but generally good-natured.
Yeah.
Happy and engaging people to be around. Irish people are naturally helpful. And the American tourists that come over here generally will find that 99% of the time that people just want to help them out, get them going in the right direction, give them some ideas about where to go. And that's just naturally baked into the Irish culture.
You're right. And that helps, again, the community, that the network that the founder has. If even sometimes to reach out to what might appear to be your competitor, but maybe it'll end up that actually that person isn't a competitor. It's actually somebody who you can actually work with. His tech or her tech is slightly just one step removed from your tech, but maybe the two together is a good combination. So you're right.
Definitely.
That willingness to be open and transparent and take some risk with your ideas as well.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Definitely. The other two, hungry, just from the historical positioning of Ireland and the natural pursuit of opportunities that have come from that, but then just humility. And humility is a great quality in any founder anywhere around the world. And I think those 4 things, just the more and more success stories that we see here in Ireland, the more and more international VCs are looking at Ireland and saying, listen, we can find some pretty good gems here. It is a small country, but we have this density here of the ecosystem that really bodes well for, it's not all bubblegum and ice cream and roses all the time, but it's
absolutely not. I just pick up on your humility. I might actually have a slight twist on that. It's humility. It's really more honesty.
Yeah.
And I think you're referring to the same thing, but because there's a time to be humble and there's a time to know what you have and flaunt it. But the honesty thing with yourself, number one, and with others, including your customers, number two. To me, that's been a lesson for me, even in my own business, not just at the end of the day. I'm a business owner too, and to be honest and open as to who you are, where your gaps are, the extent of what you can do, and the extent of your own ambitions. It's so important just to have the courage to be honest and humble too.
And when I'm making investments, and that these are for the long term, and that I will continue to help and coach and mentor these founders based upon kind of finding some of these qualities in them that may reflect that or not. And these are founders from all over the world rather than just in Ireland. And I know that BVP as well look at that yourselves as a high value add investor. How do you make that all happen in practice, Elliott?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Pete, because it's like anything in business. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver either, but it's just a general focus to acknowledge that our money is a commodity. It's a very important commodity when we're obviously representing other people as well, in terms of our money comes from other folk. Not our own. So we need to be focused on that. But driving value for the companies we invest in, it can come very simply. Like particularly when we're investing in very early stage company, it's persuading them to have structure in their business, to implement structure as well as accept that it's needed, to have accountability. These are things that maybe look like a stick, but they deliver dividend from day one, because when people see that happening, they see that, again, it goes back to the qualities we discussed there, but they see that this founder is serious about delivering not just for himself or herself, but delivering for other people as well. And that's so important in the investment community, that founders can demonstrate that they're willing to deliver for that broader base of people. Getting that messaging across, it can be subliminal sometimes by virtue of the obligations we have in our legal agreements, but also just working with them steadily as well, and turning up at board meetings. It's something we're quite devout in doing. But by and large, in the majority of the time, we get value out of it as well in terms of learning more about our portfolio, learning about the individuals, learning about how we might even be able to support them on networking, helping them introduce to other founders. You can't help somebody if you don't talk to them. Being there, being like appearing accessible. Like we obviously have to build business relationships. We can't be on the end of a phone 24 hours a day. That wouldn't be healthy either, so it wouldn't be. It's about structuring their approach. I want to talk to Pete, get his advice about X, Y, and Z, but I can't just do it like 24/7. I've got to pick my slot with Pete. I've got to pull him in. I've got to get him. I've got to get out of him what I think I can get out of him. It's like working with any non-exec director. You're only going to get out of them what you pull out of them, and what you agree together as to what value we can deliver for each other as such. It's a long-term relationship. Like any relationship, you've got to work on it. It's a two-way street.
You do. And it's they need to ask you for help. They do. They absolutely do. And what I say to founders is, listen, post-program, let's have a monthly catch-up. But I don't want that to be just you updating me on what's going on, because you could send that to me by email. I want that to be, hey, here is the biggest problem that we have this week, or the biggest problem we have this month. Pete, can you spend a half hour helping me to crack this nut?
It's so true. It's avoiding the excuses culture. I call it that anyway, where we've had our experiences in the past where I didn't hit my targets, I didn't hit this, I didn't hit that, but it's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. And look, we're all human. That's just, it's a natural instinct to respond like that. Maybe it goes back to your honesty thing again. It's just being able to figure out, you know what, we didn't hit our targets, but have you any ideas that you might be able to help me with? So it's not about just, I need to come up with all the ideas. If I talk to my non-execs, maybe they have some ideas. Maybe I should listen to them. Maybe they don't have any ideas this month, but maybe next month they will, when they have time to think about it and figure it out, help me figure it out. Or just by talking to some people, sometimes you actually figure it out yourself.
Yeah, I like to get into the 5 whys sometimes, and that framework helps. But even it's just the simple stuff. A founder said to me once a few years ago, they're P2B SaaS product, an Irish founder, and they're like, listen, we do a great job identifying potential leads, and we have a great outreach mechanism to get in touch with them. And we have a wonderful demo that we do for them and guide them through how the platform works. But then it just falls over when we ask them to kind of sign the contract after they said they would sign the contract. And I said, how do you get a contract in front of them? Well, we email them this PDF. And I said, okay, what do they have to do with that PDF? Well, they have to print it out. They have to sign it, and they have to write in their credit card information. I'm like, you don't use like forms or anything like that, or auto signature? Like, no. I'm like, and generally what happens? He's like, well, we just lose so many potential customers at that point. I'm like, well, there you go. Yeah. You're not making it easy for someone with significant interest to use your product to actually start paying you and start using it. Yeah. So automate that, please. Yeah. And that was why they weren't hitting their targets.
Yeah, fascinating. It's a great example, really good example. It's funny, actually, we had a similar experience ourselves here, actually, because all our investors are retail. So making the application process easy for them it has helped us. I'd say it's raised our fundraising capability 15%.
Wow.
It's funny how making that customer journey is easier is such a critical thing.
Absolutely. And I know that when it comes to the size and number of founders that you're working with, that you're investing in, that you keep that number relatively contained. I had 4 companies pre-Techstars with investments or stake that I have in those companies. And then I added another 9 in 2022 and another 12 now. And everyone's at a little bit of a different stages, so need different levels of attention at different points of time. But you're working with a smaller number than that. And how does that then lend itself to you guys being able to be effective really as a value add investor?
Yeah, it's a good one. Unfortunately, we kind of share, you're right in a way, in that we don't have quite as big a cohort that would be coming out of an accelerator, but we still have a good number too. I guess one of the things that we decided a number of years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, was that to broaden out the responsibility within the team here. It's not just myself represents BVP on the board of some of these companies. My colleagues do as well. So that helps broaden the shoulders as such. We have tried to, with varying degrees of success, go electronic with some of our reporting as well. So just to get some of the kind of the routine and the more mundane kind of reporting more automated, so that then the conversations we're having with folk are more about analyzing where we are, as opposed to chasing them. You didn't send me the management accounts that you said you were going to send last quarter and the previous quarter and the one before that as well.
Oh, yeah.
So if we can try and make that journey a bit easier, then, but look, it's a day-to-day challenge. It is a day-to-day challenge, and there's no doubt about it. We'd love to do more for our portfolio if we had more time, but at the same time, we try to focus. And thankfully as well, Pete, obviously some of our portfolio have good, during the good times and when they're busy and they're on target or on the plan, then they just keep going, and our involvement is quite minimal, other than turning up at board meetings and preparing for board meetings and turning up at them. And then thankfully a smaller number are in between that sort of stage of they're maybe, well, I wouldn't say struggling, sometimes they are, but sometimes they just need more of that TLC, we call it, and support. It's really about trying to focus on, it's that sort of a triage, you might call it, as to who needs help the most.
Yeah, I'd say pre-investment as well. That's what I'm always curious about, is that in terms of how founders get my attention, probably giving it away here, but if they work in something about the Boston Red Sox into their story of their approach to me, or something about podcasting, that they'll get my attention and I'll listen. But how is it that founders get your attention, Elliott?
Yeah, persistence is always a charming feature. You're right about trying to find a personal way to get to somebody like your story. Usually it's referrals, it sometimes work, but people who know us or people who know some of our founders or investee companies, it's a good way to get in. Obviously, if a sector resonates with you, we've invested in the clean tech area. If something comes in the door that seems to be in the similar sector or in digital health or fintech, or if it resonates with an existing portfolio company, we're going to be keen to see more about it. But like your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I always need a warm intro, but I will look at cold every now and again. If there's something that just triggers, and I have a folder in my email called next cohort or next class. And I just drop them in there. And sometimes I don't even respond to people. And so just everyone out there, if you don't hear back from me, but you're pitching something relevant to Web3 to me, I will come back to you. Eventually I will come back to you.
Absolutely. Tell me about Money Never Sleeps. I have to say, I'm in awe of people who are good at this sort of public face and what you do, and why did you do it, and what do you get out of it personally? What drives you in this area?
It started in 2018 when I was doing some work for a consultancy in London called 11FS, and someone for their podcast was unavailable that day, and they said, "Pete, I like the sound of your voice. Do you want to come in and just jump in and do the podcast with us?" And I'm like, "Okay, what do I need to do?" They're like, "Let's do a voice test on you first." And they did the voice test. They called it a voice test. And they looked at a screen and said, "No, your voice is good. This will actually work." They completely made that up. They just wanted to remove my nervousness from getting onto a podcast, good. Right? And then Owen Fitzgerald, who is formerly of Enterprise Ireland and is now with the Central Bank of Ireland, he had heard me on a few of their podcasts, and he had an idea to do a podcast called Money Never Sleeps. And he said, "Pete, do you want to help me do this?" And that was back in May of 2018. The podcasting I had done before that was earlier in 2018. And that kicked off what is now approaching 230 episodes. So it's a podcast that looks inside the mind of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. And half of the shows are interviews. And I just finished doing a 12 episode segment with all the founders from my last Techstars class. And all obviously Web3 focused. The other half of the episodes are kind of news stories, which is where Owen was picking 2 stories. I'd pick 2 stories. And just because we've got a great relationship, the banter is there. And what I've gotten out of it is network, right? You're talking to people that ordinarily you may not have the opportunity to talk to because they appreciate and like the fact that they're getting some type of media publicity out of the fact that the podcast is globally distributed and on a bunch of different podcast platforms. And they also, you build a relationship with them at the same time because they're putting their trust into you and they're sitting in the palm of your hands and letting them be molded and shaped by your editor's pen over the course of, hey, we'll record for 60 minutes, but we'll chop it down to 40 minutes with only the best bits. So
that's good. It's very inspiring, I have to say. It's again, these are things that perhaps weren't available a number of years ago, but I think they are inspiring for everybody listening. And
if you think you've got a view on the world and you want to help to shape things a bit, it's a platform, right? You get to share your views on things, but you always have to be careful and considerate as well, because you never want to paint someone in a bad light. It's enjoyable. It also feeds my OCD because I do the editing, the editorial edit, as we call it. We've got a great producer, Conan Brophy, who does the technical edit and melds it all together with the theme music and everything. But it's a labor of love, absolutely. And I think I shared this with you guys before, that for every 1 hour of recording that you do, it's another 5 to 6 to 8 hours of work on the distribution and post-production front.
My heart goes out to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think it's like a lot of things in life. It's a patchwork quilt. You're going to get the good with the bad, but you can make it all work together so you can. So it's what life's experiences are about. So yeah, it's great. It's been really good to talk to you anyway.
Absolutely. No, it's been a delightful conversation. Any closing thoughts from you, burning ideas that you'd like to share with the world?
Really, I suppose what it really interests me about investing is that we make mistakes. We pick the wrong companies sometimes. Sometimes we even get off the wrong note with founders. But I think it's always important to maintain your enthusiasm for investing, for the wonder of innovation. And I think that is something we have to remind ourselves to do that, to give ourselves a kick sometimes and say, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. I really enjoy investing, despite some of the downs, but the ups are great. They well balance out. They well compensate for that, I call it, experience. And we're looking forward to the next number of years and continuing hopefully our growth, but just continuing our experience anyway and continue work with founders.
Awesome. Listen, Elliott, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the Irish VC with you.
There you go.
Now that I am an Irish citizen and a VC. So this has been great.
Excellent. And we'll be looking out for Money Never Sleeps as well, every day.
Wonderful. Thanks, Elliott.
Take care. Cheers. Thanks.
That does it for this week, folks. Thanks to Elliott Griffin for sharing the mic with me in this special crossover episode. You can learn more about BVP on bvp.ie and also follow the Irish VC podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you pick up your podcasts. Check out our website, MoneyNeverSleeps.ie, for show notes and links on how to get in touch with Elliott Griffin and BVP. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it helps others to find the show. Thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for his help producing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3, and I lead the Techstars Web3 Accelerator. There are plenty of links in the show notes on MoneyNeverSleeps.ie on how to get in touch, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!
Money never sleeps, pal.